Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my Dara Lokam. I am not here to offend anyone. I am here to ask the question that every human has the right to ask. If someone claims to be a messenger of the creator of the universe, what kind of proof is required and what kind of proof was given? You say Prophet Muhammad is the final messenger of God, the highest, biggest, most important claim ever made by any human being. So I want to understand, is it enough to accept such a massive claim simply because of broken rhythmic Arabic verses that resemble poetry? Is poetry evidence of divine connection? Does word rhythm automatically prove God's authorship? Ancient Ancient Arabia already had a highly poetic culture. People were famous for storytelling, verbal battles, and poems. For example, Umarul Khais, a notable pre-Islamic poet, often regarded as the greatest of the early Arab poets. His ode, which called in Urdu and Arabic was Qasida, in the celebrated collection Al-Muallaqat, is considered by many scholars to the most famous poem in classical Arabic literature. His work used vivid imagery and emotional depth, themes like love, longing, wandering, and stark desert life. One more famous poet in pre-Islamic era was Zuhair bin Abi Salma, a leading poet of the pre-Islamic era, known for wisdom, poetry, and moral themes. His poems, including some in the Muallaqat, often focused on tribal honor and reconciliation and social values rather than just war or boasting. Antara ibn Shaddad, he was both warrior knight and poet. His poetry combined chivalry, warfare, and a romantic love. One of his poems is part of the Muallaqat, making it one of the most revered pre-Islamic odes. His life stories, blended with poetry, became legendary, widely told across generations even after the advent of Islam. There were several other notable pre-Islamic poets whose works survive or are remembered. Labid, Tarafa, Amr ibn Kulsum, Al-Nubiga, Al-Dhubiyani, many of whose poems were included among the finest pre-Islamic odes in Muallaqat. Pre-Islamic poetry was considered the highest art and intellectual achievement among the Arabs. Poetry was not just entertainment for them. Poets often acted like tribal historians, moralists, spokespersons of their people. This body of poetry helped preserve the classical Arabic language, its vocabulary, idioms, grammar. Thus, later scholars, including those in Islamic times, used pre-Islamic poetry as a reference for pure Arabic. The themes, forms like Hasidas, and aesthetic sensibilities developed in pre-Islamic times deeply influenced subsequent Arabic literature, including early Islamic poetry. There was rich, sophisticated, and meaningful poetry in Arabia long before the Quran. The poets and poems of the pre-Islamic Jahiliyyah, called as a Jahiliyyah era, are considered a foundational legacy of Arabic literature. Their influence extends even into modern times, and their works are still studied and appreciated for their beauty, depth, and historical insight. So, here is the tough question. If poetry already existed long before the Quran, how does poetry become proof of prophethood? If stories of earlier prophets were already known among Jews, Christians, and pagans, then repeating ancient stories, does it count as evidence of divine revelation? If I repeat old stories in poetic style, does that make me a messenger of God? When a claim is this big, that God Himself is speaking through a man, then the evidence must also be equally big. So tell me clearly, where is the independent, verifiable evidence? Where is the supernatural proof that cannot be explained naturally? Faith should never depend on fear. Truth should never depend on threats. And the biggest claim on earth must stand on the biggest evidence on earth, not on poetic sentences that can be interpreted in 100 different ways. I am not demanding respect, I am demanding clarity. Because if the claim is real, evidence should be undeniable, not vague. And if the claim is questionable, then humanity has the right to ask and to know. If you want, I can now also provide. So, my dear friends, think about the false prophethood. Check the evidences which the gentleman has given to the world.